Here's something most eye doctors won't tell you at your annual checkup. Not because they're hiding it, but because by the time it shows up on a test, it's already been happening for years. Your central vision, the sharp, precise center you use to read, to recognize faces, to see the expression in your grandchild's eyes, is being quietly eroded. Not from the outside, from the inside, one tiny cell at a time. And one of the biggest reasons it happens? Your eyes are running out of something they desperately need, something your body cannot make on its own, something most Americans are getting almost none of every single day. Today, we're going inside the part of your eye called the macula, and by the end of this, you're going to understand why a bowl of spinach, regular, inexpensive, available at every grocery store in this country, might be the most important thing on your plate. Let's start with the problem. Right in the center of your retina, the light-sensitive tissue lining the back of your eye, there's a tiny zone about the size of a pencil eraser. That's the macula. It's responsible for everything in your central visual field: reading, driving, seeing faces clearly. Everything sharp, everything detailed, that's the macula working. And it is extraordinary. The macula contains more light-sensitive cells packed into a smaller space than anywhere else in the human body. It processes detail with a precision that no camera ever built can fully replicate. But here's the thing about extraordinary machinery. It burns a lot of fuel, and it takes a lot of damage. The macula is constantly exposed to light, including the invisible high-energy light waves that quietly cook the cells inside it over decades. Every time you step outside, every time you read by a sunny window, every time you look at a bright screen, light hits those cells, and light creates what scientists call oxidative stress, essentially the biological equivalent of rust, cellular damage, slowly, steadily, silently wearing down the precise machinery inside your eye. In most healthy eyes, the macula has a defense system, a golden pigment, a visible layer of protective molecules that acts like built-in sunglasses right inside the tissue itself. This pigment absorbs and neutralizes the damaging wavelengths before they reach the most delicate cells underneath. When your macular pigment is dense and strong, you have protection. When it thins out, and it does thin out with age, with poor diet, with years of unprotected light exposure, you lose that shield. And here's where it gets serious. Age-related macular degeneration is now the leading cause of irreversible vision loss in people over 60 in the United States. Not glaucoma, not cataracts, the macula. And the most heartbreaking part, the early stages feel like nothing. No pain, no obvious blurriness, just a very slow, very gradual fading of the center of your world. By the time most people notice something is wrong, a slight warp in a straight line, a blurry spot in the middle of a face, the damage has been accumulating for years. There are two forms: the dry form, which progresses slowly and accounts for the vast majority of cases, and the wet form, where abnormal blood vessels grow beneath the retina and can cause rapid, severe vision loss. Both begin with the same underlying process, the slow depletion of that protective macular pigment. And that pigment is made of two specific molecules that your body cannot manufacture on its own. You have to eat them. Their names are lutein and zeaxanthin. They are both carotenoids, the same class of pigments that make carrots orange, tomatoes red, and egg yolks yellow. But in the eye, they do something no other nutrient does. They physically deposit themselves inside the macular tissue and form that protective golden layer. They filter out the blue and violet light wavelengths that cause the most oxidative damage to the photoreceptors underneath. They act as direct antioxidants, neutralizing free radicals at the most vulnerable spot inside your eye. Think of them as your retina's built-in UV coating, the internal equivalent of high-quality polarized sunglasses. Here's what the research shows. People with the highest levels of macular pigment, meaning the highest intake of lutein and zeaxanthin, have significantly lower risk of developing advanced macular degeneration. Not marginally lower, significantly lower. Study after study, over decades, has confirmed this relationship. The age-related eye disease trial, one of the largest eye health trials ever conducted, found that higher dietary intake of these two carotenoids was directly associated with reduced risk of progression to advanced AMD. The evidence is strong enough that major ophthalmology organizations now recommend them specifically. And yet, the average American gets a fraction of what the eye actually needs, because the foods that contain the highest concentrations of lutein and zeaxanthin are the ones most people eat the least of. So where do you find them? The richest single source of lutein on this planet is cooked kale. A single cup of cooked kale delivers somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 milligrams of lutein. That's extraordinary. But right behind it, more accessible, more familiar, more versatile in the American kitchen, is spinach. Cooked spinach delivers roughly 12 to 15 milligrams per cup. Raw spinach a bit less because the cell walls hold the pigment tighter, but still highly effective. Other excellent sources: collard greens, Swiss chard, turnip greens, romaine lettuce, peas, broccoli, and egg yolks, which contain zeaxanthin in a particularly bioavailable form that your body absorbs efficiently. Here's the critical piece that most people miss. Lutein and zeaxanthin are fat-soluble. That means your body absorbs them dramatically better when they're eaten with a source of fat. A spinach salad with no dressing, almost no absorption. A cooked spinach dish with a little butter or avocado, highly effective. This is not complicated, but it matters. Now, there's a question I want to address directly because I hear it often. What about lutein supplements? Can I just take a pill? The supplements exist, they're widely sold, and for people who genuinely cannot or will not eat green leaves consistently, they offer some benefit. Studies suggest that lutein supplements can raise macular pigment density over time. But here's what's important to understand. The science on food-based lutein versus supplement lutein shows that the matrix matters. When you eat spinach, kale, or collard greens regularly, you're also getting vitamin C, which protects the lens of your eye from cataracts. You're getting vitamin E, another antioxidant that works alongside lutein in the retina. You're getting folate, potassium, magnesium, and fiber that benefits your entire cardiovascular system, including the tiny blood vessels that feed your eye. The whole package, not just the headline ingredient. Let's talk about what this looks like practically. You don't need to become a nutrition obsessive. You don't need to make every meal a green smoothie. What you need is consistency. Half a cup of cooked spinach 3 to 4 times a week, sautéed in olive oil with garlic, that's it, or wilted into an omelet in the morning, or stirred into a soup in the last few minutes of cooking so it softens without losing its nutrients. A handful of raw spinach in a salad with an olive oil dressing a few times a week. A cup of frozen peas as a side dish, an egg or two a few mornings a week, yolk included, because that's where the zeaxanthin lives. This is not a radical diet overhaul. This is adding 1 or 2 servings of green vegetables to a pattern you already have. And here's the part that genuinely surprises most people when they first learn it. Your macular pigment can increase. It is not fixed. It is not a one-way decline. Studies have shown that people who were deficient in macular pigment and then significantly increased their lutein and zeaxanthin intake through real food consistently over several months showed measurable increases in macular pigment optical density. The protective layer actually thickened. Your eye has a remarkable capacity to rebuild its defenses when you give it what it needs. This doesn't mean the damage already done is reversed. If significant cell loss has already occurred, those cells don't regenerate. This is precisely why the earlier you start, the more protection you preserve. But if you're watching this right now, if you're over 60 and you haven't been thinking about this, you are not too late. You are at exactly the right moment to give your eyes the resources they've been waiting for. One more thing before you go. Your macula doesn't just need the right nutrients. It needs to not be fighting extra battles at the same time.
Smoking is one of the most powerful accelerators of macular degeneration known. If you smoke, the research is unambiguous. Quitting at any age meaningfully reduces your risk. Protecting your eyes from bright sunlight, real UV filtering sunglasses, not just dark-tinted lenses, but actual UV 400 rated lenses, reduces the cumulative light damage that depletes your macular pigment over decades. And blood sugar management matters more than most people realize. High circulating glucose causes damage to the tiny capillaries that feed the retina. Keeping your blood sugar stable protects the blood supply to your macula. Another reason the leafy greens you're adding for lutein are doing double duty. They also help blunt glucose spikes. Every habit that protects your retina works through the same underlying principle: reduce oxidative stress, reduce inflammation, give the tissue what it needs to maintain itself. Spinach is one of the most direct, most efficient ways to do exactly that.
So here's what I want you to do this week. One thing. Go to the grocery store and buy a bag of spinach. Fresh or frozen, both work. Cook it with a drizzle of olive oil and eat it twice this week. That's the entire action item. Not a cleanse, not a supplement regimen, not a complete diet overhaul. Just spinach. Twice. And as you do, remember what's happening on the inside. That golden pigment in the center of your retina, quietly rebuilding. Quiet protection, steady defense. Your eye fed. If this opened your eyes, and I mean that quite literally, please give this a like. It tells me this kind of deep, practical health information is exactly what you're looking for. And subscribe so you never miss an episode, because every week we go inside one specific part of your body and give you real, usable science that makes a difference in your daily life. I'll see you in the next one.